All right, I'll call the meeting to order. Number 2 is our Pledge of Allegiance. Number 3 is our attendance. All board members are present. Number 4, I need an approval of the agenda items.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Jen, second by Gina. Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 5, committee reports. We'll start with our advisory committees. I don't see our student reps. Okay. Number 2, elementary.
We did not have another meeting since the last board meeting.
Okay, middle school.
We had our meeting tonight before this meeting. There were 3 parents. 2 of the parents were new to the meeting, so that was exciting, and 2 staff members. Just talked about the upcoming election, and Jen was just reminding people to vote. And then she just kind of asked some of the parents how much they've heard in the community, and just what they've been hearing, and have they been getting the information and all that. She went over their MCA scores. They were all above state average. And then just talking about, maybe the students who were below or didn't improve, just how do you help those students? And that's what they're looking at. And obviously the staff is just always working on that. On October 21st, the 7th graders went to their Courage Retreat, which I didn't realize is a follow-up to, I think it's the 5th grade Kindness Retreat. I didn't realize those were together. So that was really great. And Jen said in all of her years of working with that company that puts it on, she has said at the end, the students got to just, if they wanted to, get up and proclaim their act of courage. And she's never seen more kids get up to do that than in the last 25 years. They actually had to cut off the microphone. They ran out of time. So that was really neat. There's a 7th and 8th grade band concert tonight. And last Friday, the kids were able to go to the skating place. Is that with Youth First? Is that who put? Yeah. And they had more kids. Actually, Fred Schlafke said he's never seen so many kids go. They had 150 kids go to the skating place. So, winter sports are kicking off. Student Stepping Up is working on a pumpkin carving contest, which I think the deadline was tonight. So they could take a picture of the pumpkin that they carved and submit it. And then Cardinal Cash Assembly will be this Thursday. That's it.
High school.
Yes, we met at 5:30 tonight. It is the last week of the quarter. It's dress up week this week, and they did do there's also pumpkin carving. There's a food drive in November. For sports, cross country is at state, I think, Saturday. Volleyball is in sections, football sections. Winter sports are in a few weeks. There was Unity Day last Wednesday. We went over testing information by graduating class. One parent did ask how we measure the culture like bullying in our schools and how do we rank amongst other schools. I believe like that through the Minnesota State Survey. And then there was 4 or 5 students there, and they voiced their view on the culture in the building, feeling there's enough resources in our school and options, or some go to staff members, but all in all, they felt comfortable with that. Okay, but then we were talking about how do we measure school success, like students finding their pathway. And they had, I think it was yesterday, Career Day. There were 31 speakers. The students that were in this meeting went to a photographer, An SESU recruiter was there, a speech pathologist, a nurse practitioner, an architect, an OT, a financial advisor, and a small business owner. And then there was talk about ways to gauge college readiness, how to gauge ready for the workforce, and then we spoke about life skills and what students need to be able to do as, like, if they got out of high school. And we were talking to the high schoolers about that, and one of the questions was, do you make your own appointment? Like, do you pick the phone up? And so it was a very long conversation about that. Let's see here. Oh, public speaking. We have a new college class, public speaking, that is going to start next quarter. It's through SMSU. Then we discussed how all students have access to the MCIS. And then again, that SSR, which is actually readiness now, they don't just have to read now. They have options. They can do some work if they need to. And it's going very well having it that way. That is it.
Activities?
So we had our meeting on September 24th, so some of this is a little different now, but with Jared, he wants to have meetings seasonally, which I think will be great. Our participation numbers are strong, especially compared to comparable schools. At that time, we did a track update, but I'm assuming we'll probably talk about that tonight, and then that's changed, so. And I can't remember if Jared sent this out, but it was a Minnesota State High School Lake Student Survey. Do you remember that? I can't remember if Jared sent it out, but in any event, the survey was wrong and it was inaccurate. So I think he'll be, there were some fields that were required that shouldn't be and things like that. So I think he'll be figuring that out and resending it. We discussed boys and girls lacrosse. Becker is still interested in doing a co-op, so we just had some discussion about that and pros and cons and those kind of things. We also, same thing, we talked about boys tennis and soccer and just had some discussion about that and what that would look like. The school's contract with Game 1 is coming up, so talked about meeting with other reps from other places and just had discussion about what people like or don't like and the differences between the two. And I guess one is more Under Armour, one's Nike. If people prefer one or the other, I don't know, but that was it.
Community ed?
We had to reschedule the meeting due to illness, but a couple quick updates. The Spooktacular event is tomorrow evening through Community Ed. That takes place at the elementary school. That is for kids age 6 and under. And so that is, mainly preschool families coming in, kindergarten, maybe some first grade. So they're getting all geared up for that. And the fall programming is just starting. They did, just kind of an FYI for everybody, and if you hear anyone ask, there are printed copies of the catalog in the community ed office and then some at the city hall to pick up if anybody wants a hard copy. Otherwise, the fall booklet was largely an electronic disbursement. So that's it for now.
Right, Tech?
Yeah, we had a meeting October 7th. We were not able to have a meeting on the September because we did not have a quorum. So we did discuss how the legislation has allowed not more than 3 times a year, if a quorum cannot be met, that you can do virtual. And so we are hoping that we would never have to need that, but it is nice to know, especially for the winter weather and things, and with 8-member districts and the distance that some of them travel. So we just wanted to make sure we didn't run into that. So that was a little bit of a discussion. Of course, early on into the school year, but looking at enrollment, we were at 548 in September, but we were up 12 students from that at the time of the meeting. So I'm hoping that we continue to see more referrals. Career fair did happen October 13th, as well as conferences. So I will have an update. We'll meet next week. So I'll have an update at our next meeting on how that went and the overall amount of exhibitors. At that time, they thought it was going to be around 80. So it's always a good turnout and a vast variety for the students to be able to check out and talk with the different career options and next steps. Some program highlights. We did in the automotive department get a new tire lift. The early childhood received Reality Works infant simulators. And then health science got a new patient lift. And welding had 2 new TIG welders. Not sure exactly what TIG is, but they were very excited. The Wright Academy, the enrollment, 78 students for the day. High school being 75 students. And then 2 did graduate in September, so that was wonderful. Mid-level, we do have 3 students, and at that time also had another referral. So as you know, that is a slower program that we hope at least by the end we can get to that 10 mark, but 10 is usually kind of that cutoff where we feel like we can at least maximize with funding that way. Some student support and engagement. They did have school team building activities where they did some outdoor activities along with fishing on Pulaski Park. And that was early October. And then just on Friday, they did a career event at St. Cloud Technical Community College. And then, Guthrie's coming up this week. So trying to keep them engaged in something other than just classroom activity is always great. Brian Nutter, our new executive director, doing a great job, really getting acclimated. They identified within the superintendents of the member districts a mentor. Tim, yes, I always mess up on his last name, so I won't try to butcher that. But just nice, and just the support that he feels he's receiving from the superintendents has been great, and that is awesome and something that we talked about early on before he started with the onboarding to make that a little bit different and smoother. So otherwise, we will meet next Wednesday. And so.
Masiko.
Yes, we met on the 23rd at Joint Powers meeting. It was at the Wright Tech building. We got to tour the Cornerstones program and Eastern Wright. It was fun because Mr. Woodford gave us that tour, so it was really nice to see him. For the executive report, we looked at numbers within the co-op. ECSC numbers are high, really high. There were 196 referrals from last year throughout the co-op. Melissa said that she spoke with superintendents about that. We're struggling to find a speech-language pathologist, specifically in the Litchfield area. We've been problem-solving options. Moasico has onboarded 23.2 new personnel, and as of September 23rd, we had 10 unfilled positions. Our CISO contract is ending. Scott was our business manager, and we were contracting through him, and we hired somebody new. We could call Scott if we had questions. The Egress doors are finally taken care of. The audit begins 10/27. They're going to conduct a fraud interview with our treasurer. Our SRO contract automatically renews. That's through the county. The Lions Club of Waverly donated $350, and then the Teachers of the Blind and Visually Impaired had custom sunglasses. My notes are unclear here, so I'm going to have to get back to you on that. there was the handle with care and de-escalation. Emily, our behavior analyst, provided the training, but she went out to each program so that she could give it individualized training. She said that it felt like team building, even though the training was for handle with care. And my next meeting is tomorrow, and we're going to tour the Village Ranch.
All right, thanks. Number 6, community comments and concerns, and we have Alyssa Damagala.
Okay. All right. Okay, so good evening. I am here as a representative of the Vote Yes Committee just to share an update on the work we've been doing to advocate for the upcoming levy. Since August 4th, our team has been out in the community face-to-face, conversation by conversation. We've attended activity meetings, school open houses, home football and volleyball games, the farmers market, township meetings, PTO events, and civic groups like the Lions, Annandale Improvement Club, and Kiwanis. We've also been present during school conferences and at AES Annandale Elementary and pre-K pickup more than 6 times. To date, we've made over 1,000 phone calls, visited 125 homes, and mailed postcards to over 2,000 targeted voters. We have 745 followers on our social media page, and in the past 28 days, we've reached over 100,000 views and nearly 2,000 interactions. Every effort has been focused on making sure people feel informed, supported, and empowered to vote. It has been a genuine delight to communicate with our community. The conversations we've had have been thoughtful, honest, and deeply informative. We've learned so much from listening, not just about the levy, but about what matters to people, what they worry about, and what they hope for. This kind of engagement has been invaluable. It is a great reminder that change doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens in the living rooms, at football games, in preschool pickup lines, and around tables at civic clubs. That's where the trust is built, and that's where understanding grows. As we enter the final stretch, we're excited to roll out a few last initiatives. October 28th, we'll be present at the Community Ed Spooktacular from 5:30 to 7. This is a great opportunity to connect with preschool families. October 30th, we'll have a table at the downtown trick-or-treating event to connect with families and share information. November 3rd, the day before the election, we're hosting a final Push for Excellence party. Volunteers for calling and door knocking will enjoy a free meal, free childcare, and a chance to win a gift card bouquet. It's a fun way to thank them for their time and energy. On Election Day, Sarah Wiles has generously offered her space at Little Learners for a childcare event, allowing families to drop off children and take the time they need to go vote. A sign-up link is available and required for participation. We've worked hard to remove the barriers from transportation to lack of information and to create meaningful opportunities for engagement and participation. From the beginning, our strategy was guided by a professional consultant with deep experience in levy advocacy. We followed their recommendations closely and sought their advice whenever we had questions. We were constantly reassured that our approach was sound and aligned with best practices. Our outreach was designed to be thoughtful and intentional, and we focused on connecting with voters in a way that was informative and supportive rather than broad or confrontational. That's why we chose not to use yard signs, didn't advertise on the radio, and kept our social media channel limited to those who chose to follow us. We made a conscious effort to avoid divisive conversations and instead focused on building understanding and trust. Throughout this process, we've worked hard to maintain a respectful tone and a positive presence in the community. Our goal has always been to support our schools and encourage participation in a way that feels constructive and inclusive. Of course, not every voter is going to say yes. We've heard a range of perspectives, and we've responded with facts and clarity. We know that some will vote no regardless, and that's part of the democratic process, but we also know that when people feel safe, heard, and respected and informed, they're more likely to engage. And that's the kind of culture that we've worked to build. Finally, while not coordinated by the Vote Yes Committee, I do want to highlight an upcoming opportunity for those still seeking information. On Wednesday, this coming Wednesday, October 29th at 6:45, St. John's Lutheran Church will host a levy Q&A that is open to the public. As a member of St. John's, I've been at church while he's announced this and shared it out, promoted it, and he has emphasized that this is not about telling anyone how to vote. It's about helping people become informed voters. Thank you for your time and your continued support. We're proud of the momentum and community spirit behind this campaign, and we're hopeful for a strong turnout on November 4th.
All right, thank you, Alyssa. Thanks to all your hard work. Number 7, the consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Jen, second by Melissa. Any comments or questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Number 8, unfinished business. 8A, the enrollment projections for 25-26 school year. And 8B is the district enrollment summary, which we look at every month.
Yes, we are down 2 students from last week. We had one that, two of them just moved out of our community. So.
All right, any questions on that from anybody? Moving on to number 9, new business. 9A, consider approval of the high school Europe trip requested by Holly DeHoo. And we have 3 attachments for that. The first is the Europe trip itinerary. Number 2 is the parent presentation. And number 3 is the letter to the school board.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Holly DeHoo. I'm the high school art teacher. It's my 6th year in the district. I was at the middle school for 4 years, and now I'm at the high school for my 2nd year. So thank you for having me tonight. I am requesting approval to bring back the Europe trip. Last time we went was 2 years ago in 2024, and there was 41 students that went on that trip. I had the privilege of being a chaperone on it, and it was an incredible experience. Students got to make lots of lifelong memories that they will carry with them the rest of their lives. With it being a little bit short notice this year, I wasn't expecting to get as much interest in it as I have. I had a parent meeting on October 20th where 120 people RSVP'd. I currently have 37 students signed up to go on the trip, which is way beyond what I was expecting, considering spring break is coming up very fast. But we are planning on doing a 10-day trip to London, Paris, Venice, and Rome. And we are using the same company that we have, EF, for the last almost over 2 decades, I think, going back to Tangwall when he did it. I would be happy to provide any questions or details that you have about the trip, but just want to thank you for your time and consideration.
Is there a certain number that you cut off, or is it all that want to go can go?
The cutoff is 40, because that's how many you can fit on a bus before taking a second bus.
Okay.
And it's a lot easier just to have one bus, so we cut it off at 40. They had lots of different options. I felt like Italy is a no-brainer. Like, there's so much art and history there. I know in the past they've done like Germany or Amsterdam areas, but this one just caught my eye, something different, decided to change it up. So yeah.
I think that's great. My 3 of my 4 went, and we changed it up for the last one, going to Spain.
Mm-hmm.
Said it was by far the best experience. Thank you.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah, we only hear good things about the trip, right, from the chaperones and all of the kids that go. So I think what an opportunity to go and go with your friends, go with the staff that you know, and then just get to go experience things that maybe you'll never experience again in your life. So I think it is a really good opportunity.
Thank you for your time and that you do to make this happen. So.
All right, so, okay, thank you, Jen. Motion by Jen, second by Gina. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor? Aye. Oh, wait. Opposed? There's no opposition. You get to go. Thanks for coming. Oh, let's see. 9B is consider approval of the Minnesota State High School Emerging Status School Commitment Form for girls wrestling. And what this form is, it is our full intent and commitment to register for girls dual varsity as a sport. You have to have 20 teams.
Yeah, I'll read a little bit about Jared, our activities director, talked about girls wrestling is working toward becoming a standalone state high school league activity, separate from boys wrestling, so the girls can have their own state tournament and related opportunities. The first step in this process is the emerging status process. It's collecting commitment forms from member districts to confirm which schools have girls wrestling programs, allowing the league to compile an official list. So that's what tonight is.
Any questions? Do I have a motion to approve the emerging status school commitment form for girls wrestling? Motion by Gina, second by Melissa. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. 9C is consider approval of applications to the Minnesota State High School League Foundation. And there are two. There's a Form A and a Form B application. And this is for grants. This foundation gives grants. Form A is to help with participation costs, and Form B is for costs related to like seminars or training opportunities for our students. So that's something, and I believe we do this every year.
Yeah, we do this every year.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to approve those.
Motion by Jen, second by Jenna. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. 9D is operating levy referendum update.
Yeah, I'll give it just a quick update of where we're at. Alyssa, thank you for being here tonight, and a big thank you to the Vote Yes group. I know that in talking to other superintendents that are, and there's a lot of them that are doing this year, I think the last number I saw was about 70 districts going out with a total of 96 questions. And so obviously some of those are multiple questions that are going to be on the ballot for some communities. But that's a lot. And so, but it has been, we have a week left, and I know that we're going to continue right until the end. We're going to push right till the very end. But it has been a good experience of going to these township meetings, specifically with the board members, myself, along with someone that can send a different message to our community, because we do stick to the facts and we talk about what this is all about, and we're able to answer questions, but to have that Vote Yes group come alongside too and kind of give their stories, their personal stories about them as parents and as community members. And in many cases, lifelong community members that have had really good experiences here. So right now, what we're seeing, I'll say this, we are having some of our community members come into the district office thinking they could vote there. And because of the District 29 Senate race that was made available to the unfortunate passing of Senator Anderson, that seat is open. So just a reminder to our community that the county had to take over the election, and so any early voting, in-person early voting, has to happen for Wright County residents, has to happen in Buffalo. Stearns County residents, that has to happen in Stearns County at the courthouses in those respective places. There is the absentee applications, although we're coming to the end of that. It does take a few days to get them back. And so, with the short timeline between now and then and a weekend in there, the suggestion would be to probably, if you want to vote early, go do it in person. So, any other comments or questions from the board? Meeker County can go to Meeker County. Well, thank you, Crystal.
that's it. Anybody else have anything? All right, we will move on to 9E, facilities update. We have Caitlin Chambers with us from Wold Architects that's going to come give us an update.
Hello, my name is Caitlin Chambers. I am an architect with Wold. A couple of facility updates. So 2 separate projects kind of going on. First one being at the high school for the dehumidification and mechanical improvements, including the dust collection system. That project is officially on the streets for contractors to start looking at, and a formal bid date has been set for November 11th. So that will be a public bid opening at the district office at 2 p.m. We'll open those. And then the second update is about the high school track. So as of today, I just got an email that kind of explained what they were doing on site today. So they are smoothing out some of the patches that have happened, which maybe I should back up and start earlier. So a couple of weeks ago, we identified a potential issue on site with the asphalt. The contractor had milled down that surface, and during a site observation, we identified a potential issue of it being milled down too far to be structurally stable still. So we sent a suspected non-conforming work letter to the contractor, in which case we identified the asphalt surface needed to be tested by a third party to confirm if it was or was not structurally stable. Braun Intertech came and did that testing and identified that it would still meet all of the requirements of the design, and that the patching material that was proposed by the contractor was an acceptable option. So that was kind of about a week ago. I think we connected with the contractor and confirmed that the route that they wanted to go with the patching would be acceptable. So they did that patching last Thursday and Friday, maybe Wednesday and Thursday, but just late last week. And they were on site today just leveling out that patching material. And at this point, we're waiting for weather to be consistently at a 50-degree temperature for the final surfacing to happen on the track. Pending that we do not have consistent temperatures over 50 degrees this fall yet, we've talked about striping asphalt surface in the spring. We're hoping, obviously, that we don't get to that point and that we can still wrap up the project this fall with good weather. The subcontractors that are still needing to do work on site are concrete crews, and they have identified that they would be out this week yet to finish the concrete kind of by the field event spaces, and then obviously the surfacing of the track. And that, we believe, is intended to happen this week, pending weather. So at this point, we're kind of waiting for a consistent 50-degree temperature for the surfacing to go down. Are there any questions?
Okay, so first we should just pray for 50 degrees or higher for multiple days.
For multiple days, yeah.
Okay.
It will likely take about 2 days for all of the surfacing. It doesn't have to go down in one consistent, we'll call it a pour, but it can be done in sections. So if there's a day of 50 degrees, they can get as far as they can get. Obviously, we want to make sure that the entire track can get done within the same week, right? We don't want to do half the track this fall and then half the track in the spring. So we'll be monitoring that. At this point, we had somebody on site earlier today with the design team. The civil engineering was out doing a site observation. I think we are committed to doing site observations every day. We know that there is work happening.
Never built a track before, obviously, but is it pretty common? Like you lay whatever material, then you have to mill it and then patch it. Is that pretty typical?
Not always, no. I would say that tracks can be tricky because we are trying to do all of this work within 8 weeks of no sports or events on the track. And pending, pending a perfect weather season, it can all get done A to B, or A to Z, I should say, within that time. I think there were definitely some things on site that happened, but that is why we do site observations and identify potential issues. So when we saw that the asphalt wasn't prepared or wasn't an acceptable surface or potentially to the specifications, we kind of flagged the contractor a little bit and wanted to rectify those issues immediately just to make sure that you didn't have the issues down the road.
So that's just good to know that you guys are there every day, making sure that everything's perfect before we go to the next step, correct?
Yes, and were we on site every single day all summer?
No.
But at this point in the project, we know we're down to crunch time and committed to making sure that all of the contractors understand that we're going to be pushing them as well.
Right, good. All right, because the goal is hopefully it's done, so then spring, we can have a normal spring for our track.
Yes. a
Participants.
Normal spring would be
Yeah.
great.
Yes, that's the goal. The concrete work that Caitlin was referring to too, it has to be, or has to do with in the jumping areas, the long and triple jump, the pits. So it was like timber in there, like railroad ties almost. Those came out, they're going to be replaced with concrete curbing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So that'll hold the sand in better and more long-term than the railroad ties, yes.
Are there any major negative ramifications from a weather standpoint if it does need to get pushed to the spring, just with harsh winters and things like that, any of the elements?
No, so leaving the track as is exposed throughout the winter is okay. The asphalt and concrete can all handle elements, the weather elements, without the surfacing. The surfacing is really for the runners. Yep, not necessarily the structural integrity of the track base itself.
The striping, how long does the striping typically take?
I believe they indicated the striping would be about a day and a half of work.
There too, we want that weather to be, I suppose, in a certain window.
It is the same material as the surfacing, so it does need to align in the window, yes. Have you looked at the weather forecast? This week it's a little chilly, but there's 58 within the 10-day forecast, so we're still hopeful, yes. But with the rain, and that's another thing that ultimately pushed the schedule this summer was we had an unseasonably wet summer, which when you're grading and getting ready for putting asphalt down, it does affect the base layer. And unfortunately, we did have to bring in additional soils after it was graded. A really rainy weekend or week came through. There were some soft spots that we identified on site, and they had to bring in some fill for that. So that was one of the reasons the schedule pushed this summer. I think there were several weather delays that are absolutely valid. And then, to be fair, we were a little disappointed some days with the lack of presence on site as well. So,
Thank you for your work with this. I know it's been a process, so
yes.
appreciate it.
And
Yes.
we'll
be
stay
glad when
on
it's
top of
done.
it too. Yes.
So thank you
Of
for
course.
your work.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you. 9F, consider approval and adoption of the October resolution accepting donations. Motion by Jen. By Jenna. Any comments or questions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We have a little bit of a typo, so next it says 9A, but it's consider approval of the annual assurance of compliance with state and federal law prohibiting discrimination. And this is just, do we do this every year? We do this every year also. We have to have this signed by November 15th, or submitted, excuse me, by November 15th, just that we're prohibiting discrimination.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion by Jen. Second by Gina. Any comments or questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. 9G, consider approval of the following policies in the review cycle. 506, student discipline, a mandatory annual review with no changes. Number 2 is 506, student discipline suspension form, mandatory annual review with no changes. Number 3 is public and private personnel data, changes are highlighted. Number 406, employee release of information form, that's a 3-year review with no changes. Number 5 is 407, employee right to know exposure to hazardous substance, a 3-year review with no change. And number 6, 408, subpoena of a school district employee, 3-year review with no changes. If you have any questions, you could ask them now. We can approve one at a time or all together. Gina makes a motion to approve all 6 policies. Second by Melissa. Any comments or questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. 10 is information items. 10A, we will have a special board meeting in the district office on Wednesday, November 12th at 6:45 in the morning in the conference room to canvass the election results from the November 4th election. And 10B is our next monthly meeting will be here at the Annandale Elementary School on Monday, November 24th, 2025 at 7 p.m. here in the Media Center. Anything before we go? Need a motion to adjourn. Jen makes the motion to adjourn. Second by Melissa. All those in favor?